Everyone's welcome. Of course, there's some links to keep you going. If you can sponsor Micropython, fantastic. Please do so. You already know this, just a bit backwards. Barry, and to all you guys who help out here, thanks for all that. Really helpful. Keep saying it, but yeah, couldn't do it without you. So very, very grateful. The Meetup videos are now hosted on Micropython's official YouTube account. There's a link there, but if you search for @Micropython, I think is the name of it. And there's even a playlist just to filter out just the Meetup videos. We'll continue to keep that updated. If you want to go back through the history, there's a whole bunch more in my personal account too, and we'll provide a link for that as well. Interesting. Tables falling apart. Core news, Damien's already covered 1.22, but he didn't cover the fact that he was interviewed on DevMyo, some sort of development website I don't know much about, but it's worth a read. I don't know if you had anything to add to that, Damien?
No.
Cool.
I'm getting a bit lost these days with all the things that have been done. I don't remember that very well, but
cool.
I think I know what that is.
Start of December, I think it was released, and yeah, mostly introductory stuff, like about what Micropython is, how it came to being. A lot of folks here will understand all this stuff anyway, but it's worth having a read.
Yeah, I think it was quite high level, that one, but had maybe some tidbits in there.
Yeah. There's a discussion open, just to allude to, or to refer back to what Damien was talking about. Independently, we've had someone come up and start discussion about hill testing, which is hardware in the loop testing. I've also started a bit of this myself over a long period of time, trying to get it up and off the ground. I've had a computer put aside for a little while now, and I guess it's going to be more of a focus now, especially with the threading issues that we saw with 122. If you think conceptually about what this has to do, you've got to have an actual physical bit of hardware, and you've got to have another something which observes it. So it's quite a complex series of tests to say, hey, microcontroller board, go do this, that, and the other. And you have something which is good enough that it can say if it's done those things correctly. So things like, SPI communications or I2C, all these kinds of things that we take for granted really need to be tested. And so that's what the hill testing system will do. I suspect it will grow organically and start small, and we'll keep adding and building to it. That's the way these things usually work. But it will take a bit of effort and a bit of time. So, but I'm pretty excited to see all that happen. It's, I've used this on other projects commercially, and it's a really important part of the testing process. Right, so that was November. Tim talked about the quadcopter. I've got this as purple because this is a slide from last time we spoke. The reason I mentioned this again is that I've actually got the same transmitter and receiver that Tim has, so we can also use some of his Micropython code to latch onto that receiver, and so that's all here tonight if people want to play with it. So I've got I've got the boat project, which I alluded to. My dad's on the call as well. He's built a boat that he wants to make remote controllable, and so this might be one of the features we could use to control that boat. Right, Matt's new hardware. Had a big order with LilyGo. So bought a bunch of stuff. So just quickly go through it because some of them might be useful to everyone else. The T4S3 was kind of what motivated this order. ESP32S3, you'll see this as a common theme through almost all of LilyGo's new stuff. ESP32S3 with 16 meg of flash and 8 meg of RAM. It seems to be what them and a bunch of other manufacturers have standardized on now. The ESP32S3 is quite a useful micro, powerful and cheap. So this one's tied together with a nice 450 by 600 AMOLED display. It looks beautiful. We don't have a driver for this in Micropython yet. In fact, I don't think anyone's got a really good optimized driver for this anywhere, really. They've got some examples with LVGL. Then they don't look terribly fast, so I suspect there's still room for improvement there, especially with the acceleration you can get out of the S3. Anyway, this thing has touchscreen. It's 2.5 inches in edge to edge. And it's got a couple of the Stemma QT, those small JST SH ports. So really easy to plug stuff into. It's also got a convenient breakout at the top of it. It's a really nice little piece of kit. yeah, I quite like this one. Looking forward to having Micropython running on it soon. The T-Track, if you want a small display with a little trackball attached to it, because why not?
Why wouldn't
Um,
you?
that's there. It's $17 US. Also interesting here is, it's hard to see, but there's a really interesting USB-C plug with the STEMMA QT one stuck underneath it. It's really compact. I don't know where you get them, but it's pretty interesting. Yeah, small little display, neat little device. The Lugo T Touch Bar, they offer a couple of versions of these, one with an LED, like an LCD LED based display, and another one with an AMOLED. The AMOLED's a little bit fatter, it's a little bit higher. It's the one in the picture there. And they basically shove two screens next to each other and then run a touch screen over the top of the two of them to get that long, sort of wide but narrow display. Again, they got examples for these. None of them in Micropython, they're all in various cobbled together bits and pieces. But I really liked what Liligo are doing, which is they're making all of their examples and demonstrations and even the data sheets open source. You can get it all on GitHub. So I'm quite happy to buy their stuff. This thing's quite small. It's really kind of neat. The example that they used was one of the electrical desks that you can move up and down. It's like a little display for that. Quite a neat idea. 25 to $30 US. The THMI put an S3 with a display and a resistive touchscreen, so you've got like a little stylus. That's pretty much it. It's neat. It's a bunch of Grove ports in the back of it. There's some buttons at the top of it. If you need something like that, this is pretty neat. And I was thinking of using this perhaps for a work project. So 18 US. Lugo T7, this is just a basic ESP32 S3 dev board. I think it's to the same as the D1 layout with the extra row of pins, which for those that are familiar with it, it's a really popular layout, so you can get a whole bunch of shields to plug onto it. $7.30, pretty hard to go wrong. And then the T-Display S3 AMOLED, they've got a couple of models of these now, just basically changing the display. The AMOLED's quite nice, 240 by 536, 1.9 inch high res for a little micro. Oh, I've left in resistive touch. That's not true. It's actually just regular touch, capacitive touch. The boat project I mentioned before, I'll talk a bit about that with folks here, I guess. It's looking at just controlling a rudder and a DC motor to power this thing. Dad, we will get there. And right after Liligo, right after I placed my Liligo order, of course, they announced a whole bunch of other things because they are churning stuff out faster than I can buy them. They got a nice T panel, which is purely square display. They've got another little keyboard, so they announced this one in December, and they've already announced a replacement for it, like an upgrade with like magnetic attachments, so you can attach multiple ones in any direction, and as you attach them, they connect and power off each other. Looks pretty slick. And they got a little OLED display on each of the buttons. So, yeah. And then there's the T-Display S3 Long, which is like an extended version of that AMOLED T-Display, which is quite neat. M5 Stack, I didn't even have time to get all the screenshots together, but just like Liligo, they're churning stuff out at a crazy rate. External ADC, air quality sensor, mini scales. I've got some of these tabs open later. We can whip through them, but there's a whole bunch of things that they've been throwing out there. An update to the camera board, time of flight sensor, all sorts of stuff there. Walter, which Dan gave a presentation on a couple months ago. This is a replacement for the PyCom, what do they call it? The GPy, whatever it was called. It has like a 5G modem on it. It's really small. It's really impressive little piece of kit. I've got it here. You can have a look. The firmware that comes out of the box, I'm not sure the security implications, but it basically locks onto GPS and then registers on one of their websites to show where it is. But it's actually a really cool little demo. You can see where all the little Walters are in the world. And at the moment, there's only a few of them out there. They're sort of going through trials. But yeah, we've got a little dot in Australia now, which is pretty cool. Worked straight out of the box.
Little dot in your house.
Yeah. I was quick. I'm in a set of units and I walked down closer to one of the other ones. Anyway, in software news, I thought this was a really interesting project. Polak Izano, probably getting your name wrong there, Paul Zary. He's got the PIO debug. So this is it's a C extension for MicroPython built as a native module. So you can just drop the MPy file that's pre-built onto an RP 2040, and it allows you to do PIO debugging. So for anyone that's done PIO, I didn't want to go into the description of what PIO is, but if you know what PIO is, which is a really powerful feature of the RP 2040 microcontroller, this will be really helpful for diagnosing how it works and when things go wrong.
Oh, it doesn't work.
How it doesn't work, yeah. It's like a textual interface, like a way to debug and step through this PIO state machine. Very cool stuff. Saving PIC microcontrollers with a DIY programmer was a Hackaday article from a couple of weeks back. A developer, Saeed, she goes by the name Tamid. I'm not sure which is his first name, but I think it was Tamid. Built like a debugger for, it's actually like a flashing device and a debugger for old PIC chips. Basically, he found a whole bunch of PIC chips at home, but couldn't find the flash programmer. Found it really hard to buy it, so he thought, "Hang on, I'll just make one." So yeah, used an RP 2040 with MicroPython and used inline assembly to get the timing correct. Quite neat use of that. All the code's open and it's pretty well documented, so you check it out. And Paul Price released the DevBoard database. I'll just show a quick screenshot. It's a website that has a bunch of development boards that are all archived. Has really good description and all of the metadata is really well entered. There's 109 boards in there at the moment, but he's open to adding whichever ones you want. So there's a Discord channel that you can have a chat with Paul about. Paul's also done the Smart B boards, which we've covered months ago. They have ESP32 based board with like a PIR sensors and bits and pieces that he's been putting together. But this website was a passion project of his because he couldn't believe something didn't exist, I think. Really easy to filter. You can just type it freeform up the top here. There's also parametric searching. So if you want to look for a particular board with a certain number of PIOs and support some weird, wonderful protocol, you can do that. In each of the description of the boards, there's links to videos of the boards if they're available, MicroPython firmware if they're available, all that kind of stuff. So go check it out. It's well worth a look. And if you're interested in those kinds of things, jump on the Discord and have a chat with Paul. He's really, like, he's open to fixing this. Like, I've sent him a whole bunch of suggestions and he has fixed all of them, I think. It's pretty cool. You can create an account as well and register which boards you've got and create a wish list of which other boards you'd like. And it's got like a battery life estimator as well. It's pretty coarse, but for any of the boards, you can say, hey, how long is this going to last on a battery of this size? And that is it. That's all I got for you in terms of what I wrote up. Just some more Mid-Journey images. And I think that I've got a couple of things here. Is it still sharing?
Yeah.
It is? Cool. There is a dual spiral marble clock. This thing shows the time in some weird and wonderful way. Programmed by MicroPython. These things are 3D printed and can be rotated to show the time. I haven't looked at the code yet, but yeah, looks pretty cool and interesting. Espressif announced the C61, which is another RISC-V, RISC-V, I should say, core, specifically for matter and low-cost stuff. Chuck that on your radar. The last PyCast had Nick Tolavoy on it and was talking about PyScript. They've really doubled down on using MicroPython. Damien's also been putting in features to make the to support the use of PyScript. So it's worth a listen. I can't remember what this one was about. Let's skip past it. GitHub Universe, I thought this was interesting. GitHub had a conference and everyone was given RP 2040 badges that run the Pomerani MicroPython. That's cool. We have a user, John Hylands, who happens to be Dave Hylands' brother. Dave makes the MPF shell, which is a well-loved application from days of yore in MicroPython. But his brother John has been playing with motors, and so this is like brushless DC motors. using Micropython to control the device which controls the brushless motor. If you're into that sort of thing, this is a really neat little example. Microdot there's two things here. Miguel Grimberg, popular in the Python and especially the Flask world, is the author of Microdot, which is a web framework for MicroPython. Excellent web framework. He's updated it to version 2 recently, which made it async primarily. In fact, I think only. I haven't gone through all the details yet, but it's fully async now, whereas before it felt a little bit sort of bolted onto the side. And the other thing is he wrote up a big blog post on why he chose to do it and some of his design decisions, and I think was well worth a read. It's really good. Wokwie's gone through some improvements, especially good one. Wokwie is an in-browser simulation for various bits of hardware, and it allows you to create MicroPython in the browser. For those that haven't seen it, go check out Wokwi, W-O-K-W-I. One of the things that the author, Uri Sharkhead, did was to make this VS Code plugin, which allows you to do the same simulator offline, so you can run this yourself. One of the nice things there is you can actually run your own MicroPython binary, so you don't have to use the same firmware that's only allowed on the browser. You can create your own and use the simulator to test it. The only other bit of Wokwi news is that Uri also has started simulating for the ESP32P4, which hasn't been released yet. So we've got a simulator for it before we've got the hardware. And I'm trying to get MicroPython also running on it as well. So we're hoping to get to the point where we can actually simulate the P4 in the browser before Espresso even sells these things, which would be nice. And that's all possible because they provide all the APIs, all the IDF stuff that they do. That's all available right now, and it's in Docker containers, really easy to use. This is it's an example by Braden Lane to do, how do I describe this? It's a waveform generator using the PIO features of the RP2040. So a bunch of code to do square waves at whatever frequency you want, and triangular waves, and there's a few things that it can do. Well worth a look. It's really tight code. It's really nice. And the last one was a PicoVision example. PicoVision, you might remember, is this, again, it's an RP2040 based board from Pomeroni. Uses two RP2040s. One was a microcontroller, one is like a graphics chip. And there was a competition to do some graphics with it. And this was what some guy did. And it kind of harkens back to the days of demo coding and stuff. But yeah, it's kind of cool. I'm sure people here would love it. Anywho, that's that. I mentioned M5 Stack before. This is their new arrivals. And if I scroll back down, it's around about here was when we last spoke in October, November. And so they've just been churning out stuff. This one's of interest to me. It's like a CAN board for the atoms. We can talk about, I can show you the atoms later. All sorts of things going here. Air quality sensor. Oh yeah, that's one of the atoms. Very small little board, and they provide all these kind of bases to plug these atom boards in to give you extra functionality, whether it's GPS in this case, or CAN, or PoE, or whatever. Yeah, air quality sensor was another one I mentioned before. Lots of stuff that's there. Go check it out. And I'll stop there because pizza's getting cold. Unless there are any questions.